This video is a summary of the year 2020 as I have described in the book My Life in a Pandemic. Join us as we take you on a journey of my experiences of 2020. This book is a compilation of my daily journal entries over more than 100 days. In 2020, there was so much happening and a lot of it so unique that by not recording it, we could perhaps forget it in the future. When you read the book, you will find that I've described the lockdown phase, the unlockdown phase, and the pandemic fatigue phase that set in India during 2020. Though people call the year 2020 the year of the COVID-19 pandemic, I call it the year of video calling apps, mainly the Zoom app. Uh, People spent a lot of time working from home, studying from home, and connecting with others from home by using video calling apps, and they ended up spending a lot of their time in 2020. In 2020, I evolved from being a video phobe to a video adept. In a matter of few months, I had progressed in learning how to make video calls, doing video shoots at home, conducting interviews over video as well as taking part in them, and then making and sharing videos with others. Eric Yuan, the CEO of Zoom, had predicted many years ago that video calls were the new voice calls, and the year 2020 proved him right. You look at the numbers. In March 2020, Zoom had 10 million meeting participants, whereas this went up to 300 million video meeting participants. And this was because people everywhere were doing work from home or study from home using Zoom. The year 2020 also gave rise to a new phrase, the Zoom shirt. The Zoom shirt is nothing but a shirt that people wear only for Zoom calls. And combined with that, people stopped using jeans and they switched over to wearing shorts, pajamas, and gowns. So, which led to changes in dressing habits of people. One of my interesting learnings about video calls is that the normal lighting that we use at home, it makes you appear very dark in the video. Let me share some quirky facts and discoveries of mine from 2020. On the Gulmohar trees at our township, we started hearing the world's loudest insect, the cicada. And they made sounds which was like an orchestra for about 6 weeks. And when vehicles started in the unlockdown phase, just as suddenly as they started, the cicadas went silent. Another discovery in nature I made this year was that the flowers on the avenue trees were more colorful and brighter. Thinking about it, I realized that because there was no dust, they seemed more natural and prettier this year. This year, we could see and hear a lot many birds in our township because they had full and free access to the open areas. I could hear many birds vividly, including cuckoos, kingfishers, mynas, crows, sparrows, and bulbuls. Another surprising discovery was that the bulbul parents felt very bold to bring out their chicks to teach them flying. Finding a tailor bird's nest, I felt like I was the David Attenborough of the community. I also had the opportunity to see a large-eyed hoverfly and some other pollinators on an Indian almond blossom. I made a video of it and shared it with my friends. Nature seems to have become more intense this year. Even as I waited for my turn at the Eden Super Bazaar, I was entertained by the calls of the coppersmith barbet on the trees above. Millions of Indian workers from the cities were walking back home, traveling thousands of kilometers, whereas the government had restricted airlines, so aircraft were sitting without passengers in the airports. Could you think of anything more paradoxical and ironical than this? The government would not allow the trains to resume in Mumbai for a very long period, and this was with the reason that there would be crowding in the trains. But by doing so, they actually ended up crowding the buses because people had no choice and had to find buses to travel. We ended up unwittingly increasing the pollution levels in the city because even as school buses stood empty in the schools, residents of Indian cities went to work in their vehicles, and these vehicles ended up causing a lot of pollution. Pastimes and hobbies of the year, gardening, journaling, and cooking were among the most popular hobbies globally during 2020, and I have written about them in my life in a pandemic. I run the Urbania gardening group on WhatsApp, and during the lockdown, we found that a lot many new members joined us. Many of them took to gardening only during the lockdown, and by the end of lockdown, they had graduated to growing their own vegetables, which was a commendable accomplishment. I want to add why gardening is a good hobby. When they touch soil, whether it's farmers or gardeners, they develop immunity because they are coming in close contact with millions of microorganisms. In my book, I've introduced a new expansion for the acronym CFO. I say that CFO stands for the Chief Fruit Officer, the person in a family who is responsible for making family members eat more fruit. I've also added some content on the origins of pineapple, melons, and papayas in India, and some tricks on how you can cut them when you bring them home. With no opportunity for travel, shopping became a proxy to travel, but even shopping came with its own adventures. I remember once standing in line to get into a store, and it took me 2 hours just to gain entry because the store was allowing only five shoppers at a time. Even when you got inside a store, there was no guarantee that you could find all the brands that you wanted. Now, with the markets and the malls closed, flea markets and mobile stores became the norm, and you could find them near your home. One of the funny reasons why the queues at shopping were long is because Indians have this funny habit of picking up each fruit and vegetable, even as people behind them are waiting in line. My life in a pandemic is my journey during 2020. During this year, I was initially in awe of the COVID 19 pandemic and then quickly got adjusted to working from home in the months of April and May. The government of India introduced a new term, unlockdown, that is removal of restrictions, lockdown restrictions, and this started from the month of June. I invite you to a unique journey through my book, My Life in a Pandemic. As you will agree, 2020 was a very unusual year for most of us, and through my book, I've held a mirror to that period. I've ended the book by sharing how we could have done some things differently in 2020 and my philosophy of life.